Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am John, dishing no-look passes to my man Andy like I'm white chocolate Jason Williams. And Andy, we're talking about Survivor, Ghost Island, the merge episode, and I have for you just one question this week. Can we please rename our podcast The Noble Two?
I see no potential problems with that. Let's make it so.
Oh.
Look, think of our Twitter handles. Noble 2 Andy, Noble 2 John, Noble 2 Matt. Wait, how does that work?
It gets a little dicey once you start getting past the Andy and John parts there.
Honestly, it's probably time that we stop letting them be on the same level as us and move up ahead again.
Exactly. I mean, they need to remember that they're the JV and we're the varsity.
Yeah, I mean, I already removed the color bars from the predictions tab where I used to have you and I in a different color than them as a separation. I don't know if anybody ever noticed it, but it always made me feel
I love that you asserted our dominance through colors.
I think it did the job.
Like an interior decorator.
Hey, should we talk about this episode of Survivor?
Hey, let's talk about this episode of Survivor. You know why we should talk about it?
Because it was amazing.
It was very, very good.
Oh my god. I mean, we will be going probably up and down the emotional scale when discussing it this week, but it should be noted that it was incredible. Just an incredible hour of television and a reminder of why Survivor is so great. It was the best of times, but it was also a bit of the worst of times as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely showed that Survivor still has its fastball. It can still toss the old rock, as our boy Chris Noble would say.
Dropping bombs like Chris Bosch?
Exactly. This episode, they knew what the people wanted, and they gave the people what they wanted. We got tons of Chris Noble content. It was just a plethora of Chris Noble scenes, all of them gold. Everything just reminding you of why he was such a find, and I enjoyed every single minute of it.
And, yeah, obviously this was to be his final episode. And what just amazing luck they had that he was the guy who got the clue to go to Ghost Island so that he could have that segment and have that additional piece to it. And then, frankly, and we will definitely get to this, do not worry. While it is tough that he will not be here for the rest of the season, we are also fortunate that he is the person to be alone at Ponderosa because of the great gift it gave to us. And we will get to that. But I mean, just the episode was just amazing. Just the storytelling. And obviously, as you say, we got a lot of Chris Noble, but it was Chris Noble versus Dominic. And usually, a merge episode that you want to feature, a lot of people, the different storylines converging. And it's not like they ignored everybody else here. Although I think the people on our site that were listing all of the people that got time this episode were being fairly generous with their definition of time. No, this was clearly, Chris Noble versus Dom and Wendell. Dom and Wendell a bit. And that's great. That's what we needed. That was the story of the season. And what a story it was. And yeah, we are praising an episode that ended up taking out our favorite part of the season. That's how good that this whole thing was constructed.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like Game Changers where there was great episodes when the big names went out and then you just knew that was a bad sign because, there were so many episodes left that you just didn't feel like the rest of the crowd could carry it. I feel like this one might actually open some doors for a few people to shine. I don't know that there's a lot of them that'll shine, but I think there's just a few people that have sort of been in the background that could come to the foreground and make for entertaining characters.
Also, it's a myth that you need a lot of people to shine.
Oh,
frankly,
true.
If a lot of people are shining, that might mean that nobody is. Some people hopefully can step up. I believe there is the potential for it. But yeah, I mean, there was clearly an attention vacuum that has been eliminated, and I 100% support every moment of the spotlight that they gave. And yeah, it just resulted in, an episode that I believe we'll be talking about forever. And in part, the reason why we're going to be talking about it forever is that it is somewhat incomprehensible what happened. How did he not play his idol?
I think you can sum up the entire Chris Noble experience. Just think of that moment when he's on Ghost Island. And it's basically, it's a 50-50 game. And he goes in there with the confidence that, he believed he was going to win what was essentially a coin flip every time. that's all you need to know about Chris Noble. Like, he is the tails never fails guy. Like, he assumes, like, of course I'll win a coin toss. I'm Chris Noble. I will keep winning coin tosses. And he didn't doubt it at all. Like, he seemed legitimately crushed when he actually didn't win the second time he tried.
Yeah, it's great that you brought up the second idol, that you brought up Ghost Island to the question of why he didn't play his idol, because that's also where I went to, because as that scene's happening, and it was a pretty cool scene. I mean, he's talked about in exit reviews that it was just an amazing experience being there. It was all lit by, fire. They didn't use any of the night vision or anything, which is great.
Yeah, it did look really cool.
But yeah, just watching it, it's like, of course he's going to play, even though he doesn't need to. All he needs is an idol to win this one time. Now, But of course he's going to play. When he's sitting there, it's like, I want him to play because, of course, I want people to play. At least once respecting the fact that it was the right decision not to, but I am less motivated by people doing what's best for them, and I'm more motivated by people doing what's best for me. And for me is things happening and me seeing a bit more of, the elaborate things that survivors play. So of course he was going to play. There was no doubt in my mind that he was going to play. And then frankly, when he plays it once, it's, I rationalize that. It's like, yeah, he only needs an idol this week, but if he wins immunity, it'd be nice to have it next week, right?
Right.
But then of course when he plays again, of course he's going to keep playing. There's no doubt about it. And that's when it's just like, cause even just there, just seeing how just easily, like, of course, what did he say? Like, yeah, let's do it. Of course, no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, there's no moment of hesitation. He's the anti-Kellen, which, obviously wasn't a news flash when he saw that, but he instantly just bam. Yeah, why wouldn't I? Of course you do this. He says maybe the obligatory things in confessionals. Important to note that these are probably confessionals recorded the very next day, not in the middle of the night when he's, buzzing and barely asleep. But of course, Chris Noble is going to play. And when I see that, I'm like in that moment, in that scene, I'm like, this motherfucker isn't going to play that idol tonight. I just felt like it in that moment. And part of it's the way he's talking, how he wants more power for the idol. It's like, it's got all the power you need, but also it's just like, he's going to believe that it will work out for him because that is who he is. It's the essential ingredient to being Chris Noble. What we saw this week is what happens when you've lived a life where things, including this very idol, just drop in your lap and life works out for you. You build the ethos around it. It's like, oh, it's going to work the way I think it's going to work because that's how life works for me.
Yeah. And I want to point out that he had an actual quote in this episode that I was like, I need to write this down because this is gold. He said, my whole life I've gotten places because I took risks. That's Chris Noble, male model. That's an actual quote from him.
Yeah, and if you think back to the preseason, modeling is just something that kind of happened to him. It's not something he pursued. It's not something, I'm not saying he studied in school or anything, but anyway, he was just around somewhere. It's like, man, you're a tall, good looking guy. You ever consider modeling? Boom, he's a model. Yep. Within no time, boom, he's with some of the top modeling agencies and modeling in the biggest cities. He's got a billboard in Times Square. These are, I assume pretty big deals. And it's just kind of happened for him. And it's not hard to imagine that that's, how life has gone for him. That's not saying he's never faced any hardships. We've also gotten the stuff with his mother and MS, but for the most part, Chris Noble, and more importantly, the character of Chris Noble, which we have seen and been enjoying in this season. And it's important to note that, we don't know these people. And frankly, you and I, and especially me, have come around to the idea, I don't care. What they are on TV is what they are for my entertainment purposes. The character of Chris Noble is somebody who is, the definition of privilege. And that's us, just informs all of the decision making. It was in miniature. What happens on Ghost Island is what's going to happen at the end of the episode, and it explains why he doesn't do it. Why doesn't he do it? Because he's Chris Noble and he assumes things are going to work out for him.
Exactly. And why does he bring every single person to go get water with him?
So amazing. I burst out laughing as soon as it happened.
It's just, at first he asks 3 people and you're like, oh, okay, so he's trying to build a little group. No, and then they cut to the scene of them walking on the path and it's like, oh, so every single person is coming with you, and then it's finally revealed, no, it's everyone except Dominic and Wendell.
I assumed it was everybody but Dominic, and I was looking for Wendell, and then it's like, okay, well, at least they got that part right.
And then the best part is, he assumes this plan can't possibly fail. He's like, we'll split the vote. and we'll go half to Dom, half to Wendell. First of all, Dom and Wendell are two people. How many votes do you think you need to split up? Why do you need 11 people to come and have this big conference? It's so Chris Noble to believe that, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't need this many, but I'll just talk to them. They'll understand. I'll lay out my points of why we should do this. And they'll be like, yeah, of course we're going to follow you, Chris Noble, because you're a genius and you have genius plans.
In my head canon, and this is what I want to believe. He's explained in exit interviews, and obviously always grain of salt, whatever. But sure, I mean, his perspective could have very well happened. That's not important to me. In the way I built it, the way it's more perfect in my mind, what we saw was basically the entire thing. And like he's just like lays it out. That's what we should do. And for me, and what it was just, and the way I will choose to believe it went down for the rest of my life, he didn't even sweat the details of who's voting for him. It's just like, this is the plan. We've discussed it and it's going to happen.
He's like, we're good, right? Ready, break.
Yeah. And again, in exits, he's saying that, like, I was only trying to get Des and Angela to come, and all these people showed up, and all that, and I had private discussions. Sure, I bet at least some of that's true. I don't care. For the Chris Noble of my worldview and of this season, he gathers a whole caravan of people, just immediately says what's going to happen, and boom. He's so confident that it's going to happen that he never even considers playing the idol.
Yeah,
and
so
it's amazing.
The beauty part of that story is I'm only going to bring Des and whoever. But then the 11 people come and you're just like, yeah, screw it. I'm just going to go ahead with this plan anyway. So, hey, everybody, we're cool, right? Listen, here's my plan.
That's what he said, right? He was like, oh my god, now suddenly there's 11 people here, but nobody was saying anything, so I might as well just take over. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, the reality really doesn't betray very much of the entertainment value and what we love so much about this. Exactly. And I mean, the question about all of this is, was this bad? I want to make people, we're having fun and maybe even explaining why it doesn't matter. Yeah, of course it was bad. It was so stupid. It was one of the dumbest things ever. It doesn't matter for us.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, and that's why we can explain it away. Of course, Chris Noble would do this. This is what we want Chris Noble to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said before, like, I'm fine with people being bad at Survivor if they do it in an entertaining way. Like, last season, we were littered with people who were terrible at Survivor, but it wasn't fun. They weren't entertaining while failing. They were just bad at Survivor. I mean, not only did we get the 20-person group going to have a conference on how to split a vote, we had Chris having his diplomatic sit down with Dom and Wendell, in which he, like, so completely dismisses even the possibility of having a temporary alliance with Dominic. He just brushes it off like it's nothing. Like, oh, hey, wine? Later, guys. Just dips on the conversation.
He is too suave for that. Oh my god, that scene was great. And I will say, when I was watching it, I don't know if I really thought that Dominic and Wendell's approach was that strong. Now, to be fair to them, when you're faced with a complete brick wall that Chris Noble was giving them, I don't know how well it can be. But I mean, basically, we're like, well, help us get rid of one person that might save you, and then we can break our truce. It's not the strongest deal of, I'm really sorry that everything went wrong with us, and let's actually reunite to make a real alliance. So I can understand why he wouldn't necessarily want to actually agree to something in his head. But, I mean, as we all know, we know, not necessarily he know, you just say yes. You say yes, because maybe they're not lying. Even if you think they're probably lying, maybe they're not lying. Again, I don't want him to do the right thing. I would rather have 100 vainglorious buffoons like Chris Noble than quietly competent dullards. Dullards isn't the right word, because dullards suggest
that they're
stupid.
incompetent in some way. Yeah,
dull people, frankly, like a Laurel, who it might be playing an amazing game, and we're gonna have to work for the next 10 years just pretending that it was interesting, unless it steps up, and obviously there's plenty of time and a lot of room for that. But as of right now, it's just basically a lot of quiet looks and people talking to her and her listening, which is the better way to play Survivor if you want to win. It's not the better way of playing Survivor if I want to watch.
See, I think you missed the easy comp there. It would have been Sarah from Game Changers, who played a great game that was just terrible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was using a recent example, and also Sarah from Game Changers was 100 times more interesting than Laurel has been so far. But we're
coming with a hot take.
I mean, it shouldn't even be a hot take. What has she done? I'm not sure if I know what her voice sounds like. But we're talking about the wrong people here. We're talking about
exactly.
Chris Noble.
Come on. As the episode did, we need to refocus our attention on Chris Noble here, because that conversation with Dom, you mentioned in your head earlier, the whole persona that you'd built for him. In my head, Chris Noble is in this scene thinking, guys, I don't get it. Why are you trying to persuade me differently? Like, I already have a plan. You guys should just come with my plan, which is voting out Dominic. Like, why are you guys not on board with this?
Yeah,
Dominic, lay down. Let me take you out.
Like, frankly, this is fait accompli. I don't know what's going on.
Right. I don't get this. Why are you disagreeing with me?
Yeah, I mean, so, even though we discussed that it doesn't really matter in terms of what we're interested in, I mean, we should highlight how bad of a decision this is. And, he's given his reasons, and I love him for it, in fact. I love that he's still not backing down, that he's still, at this late date, results have come in, and he's still like, no, I made the right call. And I never change, Chris Noble. But this is worse than, say, James Clement not playing his idol with the final, with 3 more chances to do it, I think.
It was pretty bad. And the thing is, if he weren't so great at the coin toss game, he wouldn't have had any choice. He could have been forced to play the idol and save himself. But
if you believe that first one didn't have, you win on both sides, like maybe I might believe.
Oh, look at you with the conspiracy theory again this week. But you see, I just tend to assume that all things come to Chris Noble because of his own greatness, not the outside interference of any other parties.
It's totally possible.
But let's hammer home one point here. At the very least, he knew Dominic was voting for him, right?
That information was live. Yes, I believe that there wasn't a lot of guesswork on that one.
Okay, so again, bare minimum, he knows Dominic says it out loud. I don't feel like Chris Noble would get the sense that Dominic was tricking him there. Like, saying Chris Noble's name while writing someone else's, probably not Dominic's MO. You gotta think maybe Wendell's on board with that too. So, you got at least 2 votes against you.
Moreover, he also knows, and everything like he's been saying through the pre-merge and his, bonus scenes, and even I think on the episodes, is I will be a target come the merge. People like me get targeted.
Oh yeah, they definitely played that clip on purpose in this episode.
Yeah. And another thing he knows is that he doesn't have a vote.
I understand. You're Chris Noble. You assume that you're go team, go, let's split this vote. We're all on the same page, right? Ready, break. I know that you assume in your head that worked flawlessly, because why would it not? But at the same time, if you just did a little bit of math here, you could maybe figure out, like you said, you don't have your own vote. You've got at least 2 votes coming your way. Maybe hedge your bets here. Bet on yourself, Chris Noble. Maybe you'll win immunity next time.
Yeah. Again, and it would be more understandable if this was a regular idol. And then if you're Chris Noble, and as he's saying in Exits, he's somebody that's going to be a target, from here on through. So he has to trust that, the relationships he's made and this, plan that he has will carry him through this vote, because if he needs his idol this week, he's probably doomed anyway. But as you say, it's 1 out of 2. Survive this one. Worry about tomorrow later. You're Chris Noble, man. Bet on yourself. I mean, obviously he thought he was.
Exactly. He was doing it in the wrong way, though.
You also know that Dominic is immune, so suddenly now your odds have gotten even that much worse. And things can get screwed up. He said in Exits, if Wendell had played his, then he would have played his. Or if Dominic hadn't played something, he would have played his. But with just one of them, I mean, obviously, he'd already accounted for that in his vote split plan. So he needed his idol next week. And it's like, but if you think you need it 3 days from now, why wouldn't you think you need it now?
Right. Exactly. Well, what makes you think that somehow after getting Dominic, everybody's like, okay, cool. So Chris is safe then. We're good with Chris.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was great. And it was obviously a, incredibly stupid move. I'd say worse than James, because James also, he had no reason to believe that, he was a target other than the fact that you should always feel like it's a potential target, especially if you're somebody that's standing out more. But he was betrayed by real allies who had been with him the entire game, who had in fact given him those idols. So it's a little more understandable. This is your first time. None of these people have proven anything to you. You know it's a battle. This is the one to win. But that said, it's so perfect. It's so perfect that I can't be mad. I can't be worked up. This is the way that Chris Noble should leave the game. I would hate it. It would be so much less. And obviously, it's not great that he's gone, and we're going to get to that pretty soon. But if it was just like, he won some immunities, and everybody realized he was the biggest physical threat, and it was time to go. Man, whatever. We get that all the time.
Right.
This is special.
Yeah, I mean, you want Chris Noble to go out in a way that Chris Noble deserves, and I think we got that. You know, I loved that at the Tribal Council, Dominic had to tell the whole story, like the origin story of the Chris Dom rivalry. Like, who does that shit?
Yeah. I will say that showed a good amount of awareness from Dominic, that he recognized that, like, a lot of this is on him.
Oh yeah, sure. But I love that it plays up the Chris Noble, like, mythology. And I don't care that we got so much of a focus on him. He's leaving. It's fine. It's one episode. It was really entertaining in the whole process. And I don't care how obvious it was. Like you, I figured by the time you got to that Tribal Council, it was like 1% chance he was playing that idol. It was pretty much sold. Like, nah, he's not going to do it. He's going home for sure.
Yeah, it's foretold. It is who he is. Expecting Chris Noble to worry that his plan did not work is like expecting the scorpion not to sting the frog. Exactly. He can't help it. It is in his nature. But here's the other thing, that the gifts of Chris Noble, it's not just himself that, it's just been so amazing. And God, he delivered every time out, down to the, not bitter end. Chris Noble made other people interesting. Like, Wendell's best moment this season was in relation to Chris Noble.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Wendell confession or voting confessional thing, like, that exists because of Chris Noble. Like, it was the first time that Wendell really, like, popped and was very interesting and dynamic. And it's because the inspiration that Chris Noble delivered to him. Like, Laurel playing off of Chris Noble was probably her best scenes of the season. Like, I think even, didn't Donathan have a little connection with Chris Noble?
Yeah. I mean, I think that wouldn't be Donathan's best moment. Because
No. Donathan can stand on his own. But Chris Noble is someone who's great to play off of.
No, it's TV 101. If you have yourself amazing character, you want to see how other characters play off of it, and that brings different dimensions to them, Make sure Kramer's hanging out with Elaine one day, even though it doesn't seem natural, right? That's how it is. It's going to bring new and fun dimensions out. And I mean, he's for my mind, he's one of the best casting finds this show has ever had. And the question to you is he's the best character? I mean, for one, I guess, you can tell me whether you agree with that premise or not. But, the best character Survivor's found since who?
I mean, it's tough only because I could go a couple different ways on this one. Because there's a different type of character. Like, I would say Michaela was the last one that was like a star. And that wasn't that long ago. That was Millennials versus Gen X. But I think you're going for a kind of different angle. Whereas, the uniqueness of him, and I don't really know. I guess maybe a Tony is about probably the next closest one in terms of how different they were from what we expected, what we'd seen before, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so when I was thinking this up, my initial impulse was, he's the best character they've had since Tony. But then I was like, actually, Michaela. Michaela's come since then, so right. It's one of those things. And that's the rarefied air we're talking about. Because, he just delivered such amazing television. And, getting back to the Wendell thing, that's part of it. Because as great as the Chris Noble experience has been for us as viewers, and let me just state here what I've said on my Twitter. If you can't get behind the fun of Chris Noble, you might be a crappy hang.
Seriously.
Just it's cool, man. You don't need to take him seriously. The beauty of Chris Noble is he's not mean, or at least he has not been presented as such. Again, edited show, don't lose your mind trying to figure out reality. From what we saw, he never did a mean thing to a person other than, the casual, disregard for the fact that not everybody's interested in you as much as you are.
I think that's the appeal of him, though. He's not like some big alpha bully or anything like that. He's really into himself and he's oblivious as to what others think of him, but he's not like offensive. He's just entertaining in how much he like drips with confidence, even as others around him are rolling their eyes. Like it's fun. And I think people have like compared him to Coach. I think that's crap because Coach would go out and just try to impress you with these ridiculous lies and stories. Like Chris Noble impresses you by telling you about his actual life. Like, I don't think Chris Noble is lying when he tells you, like, I became a model and 2 weeks later I'm on a billboard in New York. That seems pretty believable to me. And like, I happen to play college baseball or whatever the hell he said. Sure. I believe it. I'm on board. Like he's not.
I walked onto a volleyball pit and was dominating. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
you're a massive man and you're athletic, so sure.
Seems like it. Yeah, I mean, you're Floridian. It kind of tracks. Sure. Yeah. So I think the comparison with Coach, I think the idea was that he's not self-aware. I don't even think that's necessarily true. I think there's a bit of self-awareness to Chris Noble. Only a bit, though. I think people are trying to steer this a little too hard into Chris Noble being in on the joke. I don't think he's quite in on the joke. I think he's in on a joke, but it's probably not the one that all the rest of us are in on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for the most part, he is who he is. And I think probably because he's otherwise good-natured, maybe even has some level of depth due to, how he feels about his mom or whatever, that, and not being a bad dude, that people just enjoy, his, Chris Nobleness, even in his little life. So that in turn makes it, more fun for him. He gives this to people and they seem to respond well, so then he gives more. Whereas there's a desperation to what Coach does, because probably most people in Coach's life find him to be a ridiculous person and full of it.
Right. And we actually had a scene in Heroes vs. Villains with Tyson telling him, like, you need to dial that back because you annoy people. Like, not to say, by the way, that Chris Noble might not have rubbed at least a few people the wrong way. And I think we got from Wendell's confessional that, maybe that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he rubbed Wendell the wrong way, and even more so Dominic. And where this all started is with the Wendell thing, that's the key ingredient. You have to see how exasperating it could be to be around Chris Noble, and that just adds to the humor for the rest of us. It does.
And that's one of my favorite parts too, is that it feels like the real life version of The Office. And I think most people have had, I should say The Office, meaning the TV show, of course. And
frankly, probably more the American version than the British version.
Yes. And I think most people have had the experience of having someone like that, like Michael Scott, that like self-absorbed character in their life, whether it's like a little dialed down or a little probably not dialed up, because come on, no one's beating Chris Noble here. But I mean, most people have had interactions with those types of people. So you kind of get what the Chris Noble experience is like, watching it from afar, and watching it happen to other people is entertaining, even when it's not entertaining when it's happening to you.
Yeah, and it should be noted, probably later season Michael Scott, but, not the one where, he, with the kids, Michael's kids.
Oh, God. Scott.
Yeah, it's like, we love him still, and, it's still kind of funny, Last Edge, and I think that's it. But at the same time, you need Jim looking at the camera, and that was Laurel, right?
Yes.
So yes, I think that's apt. But, one place where he does, compare a bit to Coach, and this is where we need to talk about this, is when Coach was taken out of Heroes vs. Villains, he did a music video.
He did.
The noble one, though, dude. The noble one.
So Coaches, I think he brought in Courtney, and was it JT was the third?
They were the primary members of the band, The Dragons.
The Dragons.
Yes. Candace and the other one that shouldn't have been on this season, Danielle?
Double D's.
Danielle? They were backup dancers, I believe. But yes, it was a Coach and Courtney, thing, and then JT was third out and he played guitar. Yes.
Yeah. So, Chris Noble gets a Ponderosa video, as one does. You know, you get voted out after the merge, you get a Ponderosa video, which is nice. The Ponderosa videos are almost always great. Highly recommend watching them in general, at least if it's an interesting person we're talking about. And in this case, it's a very interesting person we're talking about. And so, you know, those Ponderosa producers were like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to do we're going all in. Let's give Chris Noble a music video. Chris, get to the lab, take pen and paper, write some bars. Let's spit hot fire here. And then you get a minute and 30 seconds of just musical bliss delivered by Chris Noble, the rapper, whose bars were just viciously assaulted by Wendell in that confessional takedown.
It's so amazing. And, the thing to note, you know, where you're saying, yeah, he's in on it, but not fully in on it.
Right. Exactly.
In that video that's there, when he's talking about bottle service, it shows him getting, shown, salad dressing. Yeah, at the end of the video, he takes off the glasses and the camera pulls back, and it's obviously how fake it is. That's the knowing wink. That's what makes it fun. So anybody who is out there being like, oh god, the rap is so terrible. Yeah, that's the point.
I think the other thing is where it was like, I was trying to say earlier, he's in on a joke, but not necessarily the joke. Like at the end of that video, he also says, and again, if you haven't seen it, go watch the Ponderosa video right now. At the end of the video, he's like, great take, guys. And maybe that was scripted. I kind of think maybe it wasn't. That seems like an actual Chris Noble behavior that just got picked up on camera.
Yeah, no, and it's just so perfect because, it shows the unreality and how, there's a level of fakeness to both this music video and to Chris Noble, but he's still committed to the bit. He doesn't break kayfabe. And it's just it's amazing. And I love it so much because it's just this perfect encapsulation of, what we've been enjoying this whole time. And it's like a Roots video, where they parody, rap videos, but also kind of, he's secretly loving it all.
Oh, yes.
And it's also just like, this is the Chris Noble, persona. Yeah, it's fantastic. And come on. If you can't get into how fun this is, you might need to get over yourself.
So I have a friend who's a much more casual viewer of the show, and I got her watching a few seasons ago, and she still watches. And so, I texted her. I was like, oh, did you see the episode? She's like, yeah, I did. And I said, oh, so have you seen the Ponderosa video? And she's like, oh no, I like those. I didn't watch it yet though. She's like, it was the blonde guy that went out, right? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, you need to watch this right now. And so I sent her the video, and I specifically sent her the music video portion of it. And she texts back a few minutes later and was like, I'm 14 seconds in. What the hell is this? And I was like, what this is the Chris Noble experience. You're welcome for the invitation. And she admitted, she's like, you know what? I was entertained by the guy. So even the most casual of viewers can be like, you know what? Fine. I'm in on the joke. I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, and just it's not like he's really gonna try and take over the charts, although, I saw a shot where he was at the top of iTunes. I don't know if that's Photoshop or just, people buying gimmick or whatever. It's just no, of course it's terrible. He uses Ponderosa as in ponder. It's mwah, so makes good. Me Ponderosa. It's phenomenal. Yes, it's terrible. It's terrible fun.
Yeah.
And it might be just a touch better than seeing somebody eat their new breakfast.
Exactly. Although my friend, who I don't think listens to our podcast, specifically said, oh, I love watching the Ponderosa videos because I like to see the starving people eat. I was like, that's why you watch?
Oh, God. Casuals are the worst.
Most casual of fans. Anyway, shout out to her. She's actually listening. I'm pretty sure she's not, though.
Come on, if she doesn't know who the blonde guy's name is, there's no way she listens to this podcast.
A very good point. But now that we've discussed Chris Noble, we can probably maybe move on to other people. I think we've given him a solid half hour.
I have a few more things.
Go for it.
So, I mean, Chris Noble adjacent, I suppose, at this point is, because, yeah, it was a hilarious, perfect end to the Chris Noble saga. However, it probably would have been a pretty fun end also to Dominic if that's how it had been, but it was never going to be. Was it a mistake for the main group and, large members of the group, obviously not members, including Wendell and Dominic, to target Chris Noble?
Am I crazy to think that Chris Noble might have actually been a pretty loyal ally?
Yeah, I think he's much better to have than Dominic. I think the case that Libby made this episode was bang on. And obviously, I am totally in the can for him. So, I mean, there's a lot of bias.
Crazy.
But, two things. But yeah, like Dominic is a guy who's going to go out there and scheme and try to beat you. Chris Noble is Chris Noble. He is what you get. He's a guy who is not smart enough to play an idol when he needs it. Like, now, I will say it wasn't a mistake because of how the idols went down that you couldn't get Dominic. But frankly, like getting rid of Wendell was probably better than getting rid of Chris Noble. I understand maybe you might not think that because Wendell is a chill dude who you probably like being around and wouldn't mind working, but like Wendell and Dominic might outsmart you. Chris Noble will not.
Right. I feel like it's very easy to predict the Chris Noble game. Like he's going to try really hard to win immunities, and he's probably going to vote with you to keep himself in the game. If you want to add another wrinkle, he probably wants to be the quote unquote leader. Really, that just means figurehead. All of those things are pretty reasonable to work with.
If you can't outsmart Chris Noble when the time comes, that's on you.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think this was a big mistake. They should have taken him up on this because it's easy. He should be, I mean, now the variable that I don't have to deal with is they have to deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, credit goes to Dominic and Wendell for being the more level-headed people that people seem like, I think I want to work with them or want to be around them or, trust them on some level in a way that maybe you can't. But it's like, you don't need to trust him. You know who he is, JT won Survivor by keeping Coach around, if you want to use that comparison. Like, you just, and like the former Malolos, who I think ultimately probably went this way because they're not really on that Malolo stuff anymore. They might have aided in their pagonging, which is might be coming up as a result here. Like, the cloud cover that everybody needed was the Dominic versus Chris Noble battle. That's gone now, man.
Yep. Are you concerned now that we're just going to have a clunker of a season? Now that we've lost this head-to-head battle, that Chris Noble's gone, like, do you still have hope?
Hope, absolutely. And I think, we already kind of briefly touched upon it, but we should get into it more. That there's so many possibilities now that can open up because all of the air was going to this. If there were going to be more characters to emerge, this probably needed to end for it to emerge because frankly, they probably aren't better than what we got. And I mean, a lot of them already had their chances in, from the fact that Chris Noble never went to tribal councils. So their tribe's got plenty of time and we didn't really get dynamite out of some of these people. But I still think there's a chance. But what I'm worried about is that the stated goal for getting rid, or that they wanted to do, but they couldn't do because Chris Noble versus Dominic, was to pagong. And now they can.
Yep.
So I think that, forget about the removal of the most entertaining player of the season. I think the entertaining possibilities for the next, the midterm here might have gone with him as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. They certainly are not ruling out going back to a pagonging. And we even had a little, side conversation with the 4 Navidi women who were like, hey, why don't we just, the 4 of us band together, run this show? Their plan was to, as you said, continue the pagonging. So, I mean, don't rule that out as a possibility. Like, there are clearly still people talking about that. And now that Chris was not willing to play that game and he's gone, maybe that's what they do. Maybe they all line up, take out the rest of that tribe, and then go at each other.
No, obviously there's possibilities that, Dominic might now be the most dangerous person Apparently Wendell can't keep his idol a secret, although I don't have high hopes that, Laurel is just going to start broadcasting that to everybody. I have confidence she might keep that information until it's more useful to herself, which is both the, sensible, smart survivor play and, predictive of somebody who isn't out there to, make big splashes or entertaining things. I think that we should be ready now for at least a period, a vote or two of just, straight up pagonging, near unanimous votes for some people. And frankly, maybe we need a breather after what we just got. I will say that eventually the Navides will, implode. And if you want hope that it won't be too long off, they did just one episode ago. So maybe I shouldn't be too dramatic, but just like everything we got in this episode is every Navidi not named Chris Noble wanting to pagong, but they couldn't because of this whole tension between them. Like that was what Wendell's plan was. Can we just do this once and then we could get to it? And then as you say, the ladies were like, how about we just ignore their little battle and pagong anyway?
Yep.
And what's interesting about this episode is as amazing as it was, it felt like it was going to get more amazing, right? Like I thought, Well, on one hand, I felt like Chris Noble's going to mess us up and not play an idol just because of his gambling spirit. The other is like we get like 3 to 4 idols played tonight, and then none of it mattering because the women take over anyway. Like that could have been amazing.
Yeah, there were a lot of different storylines that were potentially in play, but I think that there was just such a central focus on those two guys, and so much Chris Noble in this episode. You kind of figured he's the one to go. And so it's like, okay, we're probably not going to see 4 idols coming out just because it's Chris Noble going home.
Well, I'll say, getting a lot of Chris Noble wouldn't necessarily suggest he would go home because why not do it twice, right? I don't think it's like we can only give a lot of Chris Noble in the episode he goes home. No, all the time. But it was like what should have happened was, Dominic plays his advantage. Chris Noble plays his idol. Wendell then plays his idol. And then maybe even Michael's like, hey, I'm not drawing rocks. And then he plays his idol. Like that was possible. And then it would have been funny, maybe even as funny as what happened. If all of that happens, all the guys are, doing their mastermind moves and putting it all on the table. Mono, this is us. Watch us play Survivor. And then none of it mattered anyway because the 4 ladies would be like, screw you guys and voted out Libby. Like that would have been pretty special.
It would have been very Kagayan-esque where it was just, they had the same thing. Guys, Tony and LJ playing idols, and it's this big showdown. And then it's really just flipped on Cass, who just decided to, go to the other side. The end. That was the whole thing that flipped that vote.
So what do you think? Are you concerned about what will happen with the season or, just optimistic?
I think I kind of hinted at earlier, like I think this is going to open up some space for Donathan to actually be interesting. By the way, quick little praise for Donathan here. My boy actually figured out, A, that if there was a vote split, then they could win with the plurality. And then B, told Dominic, like, listen, you cannot trust Libby and Jenna. So the kid actually has some strategy. Like, everyone assumes like, oh, he's just I think there was even a confessional from someone at some point saying that, he just thinks he's on an island vacation. Like, no, I think we're actually getting some glimpses that he came to play the game. He's not just a sweet, entertaining character. He actually has some he has some strategic chops that he probably wants to utilize at some point.
Yeah. I was good by him. Obviously, I'm watching. I was like, don't do that, Donathan. Be on Chris Noble's team.
I mean, listen, I wanted it too, but I'm still impressed with my boy. He did well.
Yes, it's okay if Donathan plays for himself instead of Chris Noble.
Right.
Maybe less so okay from some other people, but yeah.
I got a little bit of respect gained for Wendell, but I do worry that it's going to disappear now that he doesn't have Chris Noble to play off of.
Well, here's the thing about Wendell. So it's all agreed by everybody that it was stupid for Chris Noble not to play his idol.
Yes.
That, he should have, you knew your name was out there. You should have been concerned it could have turned your way. If you remove results, isn't the same thing true of Wendell? What separates Wendell not playing his idol from Chris Noble not playing his idol other than results? And obviously your answer is, well, Wendell probably felt really confident in what people were telling him. again, that's no separation from what Chris
Right.
Noble says, right?
Yeah. And again, Dominic had also played his idol. So if you're Wendell and you have an idol, if for some reason they had split the votes, or even just they had enough votes that they're like, screw it, we're just going to target Dom or Wendell. You're playing the 50-50 game yourself there. And unlike Chris Noble, you shouldn't be as confident in your 50-50 always coming up in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a kind of really interesting test case and shows how, close the margins are between complete moron and master strategist. That they both did the same thing based on the same logic and reasoning and feeling that, no, I have gotten assurances from what I've talked about. I have this trust in the relationships I've built. I believe that I can suss out if people are lying to me or not. One of them was completely wrong and one of them was right. And otherwise there's no difference. Both of them should have felt somewhat in danger. Both of them heard that their names were out there. Like, you don't even know what, Chris Noble's playing. And maybe Wendell is the same deal as what Chris Noble is now claiming. If Chris Noble plays his idol, then I'll play mine. But since he didn't, I'm good because clearly nobody else would vote for me. They told me they wouldn't. Now, I suppose the one difference for Wendell is Chris Noble knows exactly that two people are voting for him. Whereas Wendell's like, Chris probably isn't even voting for me. He might be voting for Dominic. But it's just, and I'm not even necessarily criticizing him. It's just that thought. It's just like, they both did the same thing for the exact same reasons. And one of them was incredibly stupid and one of them less so. How much credit do we give Dominic for winning the big battle here?
Given how lopsided that vote was, I think I would struggle to give a lot of credit to him.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like, and that's the thing. It'd be like, we had this battle, this head to head, and Dominic won, and Chris, shaking his hand and still giving him credit. But it's like, it kind of seems like everybody just wanted to get rid of Chris Noble. Now, the credit that you get is that they didn't want to get rid of you. That you have not, annoyed them as much. You've built some relationships. Maybe getting rid of Bradley helped win over, Libby and Donathan. So yeah, there's some credit. Obviously, he has gotten along with people better because, as we've even said, I'm not sure it was the right thing to get rid of Chris Noble. At the same time, I don't think he was out there turning the tides on people either. The credit he gets, I suppose, is by not being Chris Noble.
Yeah, and we'll see how well that holds up because, now that Chris Noble's gone, does Dominic then become a target himself? Like, it was easy to have that battle constantly there. But now that Dominic is no longer drawing that fire, I think people might be like, okay, now I can't really trust Dominic. He's too shifty. He's got too many plans. He's got idols, blah, blah, blah. Let's get him out of here.
Yeah, we didn't even hear about him taking out Bradley, which was kind of a really nice quote, touch about the self-importance of Bradley, but let's not rule out that it might come up again. This was not the time to be discussing Bradley. They didn't even have time for them to be like, oh, we're at the merge, episodes, starts and they're already there because we got a lot of business to go to. Here's a crazy thought coming from me that, I hope everybody's sitting down. Is it possible that Dominic's fake idol play actually worked?
I have no idea how you could contort an argument in such a way that would make sense.
Maybe nobody believed what Chris Noble was telling them about the threat level of Dominic because he had such a ridiculous fake idol that everybody's just like, he doesn't have an idol. That's fake. And only Chris Noble would ever believe that thing is fake. Is it possible that he was somehow able to shift the target off of himself because he showed Chris Noble he had a fake idol when he had a real idol?
No.
Yeah, okay. So the one thing, I want to put that out there, and when people will be like, oh my god. And now this is the time, of course, when I never admit fault. None of that, the way he had to, re-trick people and tell people that he tricked Chris Noble, none of that ever would have happened if he didn't tell Chris Noble he had an idol that was fake but also real in the first place. So, at best, he undid the damage he already did with his own move. And then, of course, we also know he's already at least told some people about his real idol, so, Alright, now I think I'm ready to move on. But it's still kind of, Chris Idol adjacent because it is time to relitigate the relic that we got this episode.
Oh, JT's idol. JT's idol, and I should clarify because JT has had more than one idol in his Survivor career. This would be the one from Game Changers, the one that he sat on as Michaela sipped her tea. and JT got voted out, never having played it because he was convinced that he was safe. Now,
never having even brought it, which means that they didn't even have to ask for him to get it back. It was theirs. And I think that's one small clarification that's aside to this even conversation. Some people are like, oh, how'd they get that idol? Or how'd they get, Dumbass's immunity necklace, Eric's. You only keep it if you leave the game with it. Otherwise, it's theirs. If you play an idol and you hand it to Probst and you didn't need to, production has it. Immunity necklaces, production has those. You keep what you didn't play. JT did not leave the idol with that in his bag. It was never his item. That one note, I wonder why we're going with, say, for instance, JT's Game Changers idol versus his far more famous Heroes vs. Villains one. Maybe they don't keep all the relics from the past. Everybody's like, we got a lot of stuff from Game Changers. It's like, yeah, well, they have it still, could be the thing. Whereas some of the other relics have been the things that the individual holder kept, right, as their own souvenir, and they could just call up Andrea or James. Whereas, yeah, maybe they don't have Eric's they kept because, like, man, or the stick. It's like, we gotta keep this.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. I know the executive producer kept the stick because he's tweeted about it before.
Yeah. But whereas JT's, buffoon idol would later become Parvati's, great idol, and then possibly also Sandra's bra idol, or like one of Russell's wasted idols. So at that point, maybe you're like, this isn't an amazing thing. This is, throw it in the pile with the other stuff. Anyway, that's to decide. Why we're talking about this is what's interesting about this idol, as you say, it's the one he didn't play, and it becomes so perfect and prophetic the way it happened here.
Yes.
But this is the less dumb of JT idol plays, and also the way JT was stupid about it was the less dumb this idol was not played.
Exactly, because as you kind of mentioned earlier with Chris Noble's choices, JT's was a normal idol. Like, he could have held it and used it later. Chris Noble had two options. He had a coin flip, and he flipped wrong.
One of two, and you need it now. But, it was worse. So that's the thing. Like, congratulations, JT. You are no longer the worst person to ever not do something with this very specific idol.
Yes. And if anything, I think that the JT getting voted out thing just showed us what a boss Sandra is. Like, not to go back and relitigate Game Changers, but I think that a whole bunch of that pre-merge showed us how great she is at Survivor. And that was just another example.
Sandra was the second best player that season.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like, career. I mean like literally that season.
Yes. That's where I was going with that. I agree.
Yeah. Because, credit where it's due. Sarah was absolutely the best player.
She was. She did very well. It was boring to watch, but she was very good at it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about somebody that isn't Chris Noble or Chris Noble adjacent.
Oh, why bother?
We got a little bit of time. So what did you make of Kellen's confessional about how confident she is in the relationship she made in the swap? That one was like, huh?
Oh, the merge confessional that's reserved for the obvious winners of the season? That confessional?
Apparently. So lock it down, everybody.
Hey.
Kellen's winning this season.
Exactly. Congratulations to Kellen on her win this season, and shout out to Blurry Denzel for always believing in her. Hashtag justice for Blurry Denzel. I really don't get it with Kellen. Like, we've seen her social failings. This does feel a little bit like Chrissy or Ryan-ish from last season, where we've seen evidence to contradict the things that you're telling us. And, I do think she does have some relationships that she's made. I don't know that they're super strong, at least from what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. We don't know. And obviously that's true of every goddamn thing on this show. But I mean, it seems incongruent with what the show has been telling us about her. Yeah, I have no trouble believing that she believes she's made good relationships. Most people did. Chris Noble believed that. Mm-hmm. But moreover, that she actually has made better relationships than we've seen. It's, I'm sure she's much closer to Angela than we've seen, for instance. It sounds like it, that they have she had a pet nickname for her. I actually do think that there's something going on with her and Michael, which is, telling why, like, when she's talking about people and Desiree are talking about people to get rid of, they're not bringing up Michael. In fact, Desiree, deflected that right away. It's like, we can get rid of Michael anytime. Libby's the one. Right? Like, I think there might be something there. I don't think like a close alliance, but it's like he's somebody I could work with. Let's keep him around a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Why, him instead of James, for instance. So yeah, it's certainly possible within the realm, but what the show has showed us is like the story of, especially the first swap is, yeah, sorry, I'd like you guys, but I will never work with you. Nothing that you guys say or do matters because we have the numbers. What does it matter? That's not relationship building. That's literally like slamming doors in people's faces.
That's Chris Noble rejecting a temporary alliance.
Yeah, we will not have relationships because I do not need them. And the second swap was kind of the same deal. We have the numbers. It was a bit more like I need to work on Angela because of the things that Dominic and Chris Noble screwed up. But like, it wasn't a story of relationships. And now suddenly, yeah, her winner's edit interview, as you say, is her talking about relationships. And it's just like, eh. And obviously, like, people, especially one person, will be like, you're just thinking that because you hate Kellen. And to that, I'll say a couple things. One, I never hate anybody unless the show is giving me reasons. Now, obviously, reasons that feed into my own personal biases or whatever, but I think I've demonstrated time and time again, I'm not somebody who just picks somebody as a favorite or preseason or early on because they fit a certain profile and then cater everything to that. No, I'm somebody who jumps from body to body and just no loyalty whatsoever. Yes, that part is completely untrue. But I mean, the phrasing part. But yeah, I'm a bandwagon. So yeah, if you do well, I'll praise you, and as soon as you stop, I'll stop. But moreover, it's like the general reaction to Kellen this season is, I don't think I really like her. That's kind of what's going on. And why is that the general reaction? Because the edit hasn't been overwhelmingly positive. This isn't me like reading into the edit and like trying to use it to like, it's time for me to pick on a nerd or pick on our fans. I do that other ways. People are not feeling good about Kellen because clearly the edit has not wanted us to. And people are, often fairly susceptible to the edit. So it's like they haven't been showing us at all these so-called good relationships, and now that's what she's talking about?
I mean, we did get to see some people congratulating her for the immunity win, calling her
that happens all the
beast.
time.
They at least have some sort of acquaintance-level relationship with her. I don't know that to me, screams like strong bonds.
Yeah, no, again, I don't deny that they might even exist. Everybody out there probably has stronger relationships than what we know of on Survivor.
Of course.
It just doesn't seem to mesh at all with, like, the story they were giving us, in those swaps. So that when she said it, my ears perked up like, really? The swap relationships. That's the one you're talking about? Like, if she had been saying, my original Navidi relationships, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, we never really got a sense of what that was like over there. But your swap relationships?
Yeah.
So,
I guess it remains to be seen. I do agree with you that there might be something there with Michael, but that's one relationship. That's a singular relationship.
Yeah. And frankly, the relationships we saw her working in this very episode had nothing to do with the swap. They were original Navidi. So
exactly. That 4 Navidi Women Alliance that I talked about earlier, which I feel like that might be a potential thing later.
Which would be weird since Chelsea, just 86th Bradley, right? But,
yes. Also, like, man, what a dud of an alliance that would be. It's not a thrilling group.
No, she is full credit. Kellen is easily the standout of that 4.
Yeah, she's the most dynamic of that group. I mean, it's her and Desi by country mile ahead of Angela and Chelsea.
Anybody else you want to talk about besides, the 4 dynamic ladies of the video?
Well, I want to talk about who we think's going home next week, because we now have Chris Noble out of the way, unfortunately. He will be welcoming people into Ponderosa. Who's the first person he's going to welcome?
I think it's time to get back to the begonging, and it'll be Libby. Because for several episodes now, we've been told that Libby is a threatening player. You know what we haven't been shown that Libby is a threatening player? Now, again, I think she was bang on her analysis of why they should maybe be considering teaming with Chris Noble as opposed to putting her out. But there's been a lot of people saying she's a threat without the show investing one iota in building her up as one.
Yep.
So, yeah, that makes me think that they're not building her up as somebody we're supposed to root for to dodge the bullet. It's just explaining why she gets one.
Well, damn. That was not only my actual prediction, but basically the same reasoning that I was going to use. I have nothing really to add. I also believe it's going to be Libby this coming week.
All right. So I think that's all we need to talk about this week's Survivor, other than to reiterate once again. Man, Survivor's awesome.
It is. And we talk about it on our website, which is purplerockpodcast.com. We live blog. You can go back and watch our boy Matt relive the joy, or actually live the joy of watching that episode, because he blogs in real time. You can see everybody's reactions in the comments. It was great. Everyone enjoyed it. A lot of very entertaining comments. And then, of course, one of our dear commenters, and I would shout you out, but I totally forget who it was, almost immediately found and shared the Ponderosa rap video with us. Thank you so much, commenter. You really are our people.
I think it was Marlon M.
It might be. That sounds like it might be the person. I didn't want to say it just in case. Anyway, thank you to whomever it was.
If by some chance you had not seen it yet, despite the fact that we've been telling you to, it's been out there. I mean, most people have been telling you to. Probably Marlon M shared it with us. You will also get it on our post on Monday, where Taco, shares the bonus, content from Survivor. And yes, of course, he is going to be highlighting Chris Noble's rap because A, if he hadn't, he'd be fired.
Yep.
And, B, he and I have already been collaborating on which images we are going to be using for which post, because they will be all coming from that sucker.
Yeah, as a general rule, we're not the most overly aggressive editors. We're not really pushing angles.
We literally don't look at his posts until they go live. I sometimes check them out because I'm there, but yeah.
I was going to say we shouldn't even just say his. We don't really edit anybody's posts anymore at this point. We just hit publish. But in this case, this would be an intervention-worthy case. We would be like, no, you don't understand. The central focus this week is that Chris Noble Ponderosa video. Make it happen. So yeah, if you want to see that, we do those secret scene clips, or Taco does, I should say, every Monday. We do Survivor Fantasy League. You can see those. And you can find us on Twitter. Show is at Purple Rock Pod, where I'll do live tweeting every week. At Purple Rock Andy is Andy. And God forbid you ever want to tweet something at me, at Purple Rock John.
You can subscribe to the podcasts in the various different places that is possible. Anything else?
Nah, let's hit some theme music.
Fanaka!
Hoorah, PG!
Feeling like a boss as I'm island hopping. The buzz so real, it's like we bottle pop. Choppers on deck, their hearts flush when they drop it.
Straight calling dudes bluff when they body flopping.
Check your back from that blind side. They say the need is strong, but they change with the high tide. The dark side, the low V with the black dye.
The domino effect cost me $1 million in a swell eye. Living a dream, I'm Ponderosa. Swung for the fences, I call it Sammy Sosa. We juice all day and toss the corks in the roasters.
Probes on deck, feel the burn when he hosts ya.
Living a dream, I'm Ponderosa. Swung for the fences, I call it Sammy Sosa. We juice all day and toss the corks in the roasters.
Probes on deck, feel the burn when he hosts ya.
Life is a beach as I sip my Corona. Survivor on my mind, that's why I Ponderosa. It will toast ya, maybe bloat ya,
Send you to tribal where they roast ya.
oh, that dude might have ghosted ya.
Bottle service all day, we stay VIP. Serve the finest lobster like Seth on day 3. When things get hot, take a paddle to the sea. Unlock the door to freedom from my Florida key. On the jet ski, the vitamin D. What happens on the island stays in PG. Vanaka. Great take, guys. Nailed it.